You're listening to Let Me Speak to a Manager with Frank Cava and Ian Mathews.
What a crock of shit.
Yeah, that was hot mic, Sam.
It's 30 minutes away. I'll be there in 10.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Frankie.
Ian, you son of a bitch. You nut-cutting son of a bitch.
Nut cutting. We're talking about cutting nuts. Things that we're back. We're back for sure when nut cutting is a topic nowadays.
Oh, that's a funny example from the March Madness. There was an article about one of the teams that had a last-minute victory, and on Disney-owned platform ESPN, it was quoted as saying nut cutting. So as reported here by Ian months ago, woke is dead.
Woke is dead. Before you can cut the nets, you got to cut the nut.
That's exactly right.
No one understands what the hell we're talking about. But Frankie, I need a favor from you.
This podcast isn't enough.
I need a favor from you. I need you to actually focus for 45 freaking minutes, not emailing, not taking freaking meetings from other people coming in. Could you just focus for 45 minutes? Just a.
What we're going to talk about today is life's biggest. When you ask a question to get to, or you ask for a favor to get somewhere, every week I ask Ian, hey, can you write this agenda? And it keeps working. Working.
So I love Frank because every week he's like, hey, I got the agenda next week. It's going to be a banger. And then I get a text at like 9:30 the night before, like, hey, I got a lot of shit going on and agenda's almost there. But what do you got, Ian? So today we are recording an agenda that was hastily put together by me hours before we did this. It is a banger. It is, well, actually, yes, minutes ago. It is a banger, but it is pertinent and kind of real to me because I just dealt with it this morning. So I have a client who is relatively new with his company, and he is struggling to gain influence and something sort of major, something important in his business. And he works for a C-level executive, but there is another person of influence, right? Like in most organizations, just because you have a relationship with your boss doesn't mean that you're going to get what you want. There's another person of influence at a high level who he does not report to, who is if not a detractor, is not being helpful, and who would make a much better ally than a neutral party, if not negative. And so we were talking about it this morning, and it got me thinking about the Ben Franklin effect. And I suggested that he try to build a bridge with this influencer who is making life tough on him. And to do that, my suggestion was to ask that person for advice, to go to him and say, hey, look, I'm relatively new in this company. You seem to be a person here of great influence and someone who knows how to get things done. I'm struggling with X. Could I ask for your advice on how I might approach things differently to work within the confines of this company? And the reason why I made this suggestion to this particular client, this comes from the world of psychology, the Ben Franklin effect. And Franklin, in his autobiography, he talked about when he was in Pennsylvania legislature, there was a particular bureaucrat who just kept screwing him. So Franklin would work his ass off, try to build a coalition, and he knew this guy didn't like him. And he knew this guy wasn't helpful. And so he tried to just win everyone else over and just try to, screw this guy. I'm going to ignore him. He's not a friend of mine. He's a detractor. He's a troll. I'm going to just win everyone else over. But the guy kept screwing him. And in lots of little imperceptible ways, when he wasn't in the room, he would kind of trash a bill that Franklin was working on. And so this is directly out of Franklin's autobiography. Having heard that he had in his library a certain very scarce and curious book, I wrote a note to him, expressing my desire of perusing this book and requesting he would do me the favor of lending it to me for a few days. He sent it immediately, and I returned it in about a week with another note expressing strongly my sense of the favor. When we next met in the house, he spoke to me, which he had never done before, and with great civility. He even manifested a readiness to serve me on all occasions, so that we became great friends, and our friendship continued until his death. So the Ben Franklin effect is by asking a favor and by doing a favor for someone else, we tend to like them more and want to help them even more after. And part of this comes from our sense of ego, in that if I feel like I even had a little slice of your success, I can claim it. I can feel good about it, right? So now that I've lent a book to Ben Franklin, I've helped him in some way, and he was grateful. Now I can claim a little bit of success for everything Ben Franklin does that's well. It's an unconscious bias, which all psychological biases are, that we don't even know. It's a little trick that our brain plays on us, but it's a very powerful one.
So when we started talking about this agenda, one of the things that I came up with is there is Ben Franklin says the best way to get a second favor is to ask for a first one. So it's a little bit similar, plays along the same lines. And we have a mutual friend who looks a little bit like Ben Franklin. He's he's corporate counsel for our company, somebody who Ian uses from time to time. But what I started to realize with him is he was bought into what we wanted to achieve, but he's a difficult guy to get an audience with. He's very powerful, works with a lot of different companies, and
Big clients, big publicly traded clients, billion-dollar companies he's thought of as in-house counsel. Powerful guy.
massive clients.
Works
And
with companies much more profitable than 5-on-4 group and Cava companies.
correct. But the upside of it is, and I think the reason why he has buy-in with guys like us, is we value him in ways that the big guys don't. The big guys pay him a fee and for service, and he's paid well, and he's thought of very highly. But we'll ask him to do things for us that others don't. Are they true favors? Maybe not. Is it something where it's something he gets to help us and lean into it, and we get to lean into his expertise? Do we get to tap into it? Do we get to ask questions? Hey, would you assist me with this? Would you be on a call with me for that? And I've had a 10 to 15-year relationship with this attorney, and he's someone who absolutely roots for us in a major way. But it started with me asking him to do like small things that are probably beneath his pay grade. But 10, 15 years in, he's a really, really loyal, helpful person who now I can take calls with on weekends. Like I can text him and he'll jump on with me almost immediately. But it was because I had the ability, or I had the foresight or luck to ask, hey, would you help me with this? Or what are your thoughts on this? Things that are way, way, way below what most normal people would think is a task to ask.
Yeah, this guy signs off on quarterly reports for publicly traded companies. He helps write some of the language into the charters of publicly traded billion-dollar organizations. He's been involved in multi-million-dollar A deals, and Frank and I will get him involved in like an employee dispute, right? That where someone's accusing someone. Like we get him involved in just little bullshit that is beneath him. But the one thing he doesn't get from the publicly traded big companies is a genuine thank you and appreciation that he's helping build something. The thank you he gets from them is a check, right? That he gets money, right? And he gets a lot of it. He gets a lot more of it from them than us. But he stops what he's like. He makes us feel important because he knows that we really appreciate that we have access to someone of his power.
Stated a different way, him taking us on accounts is a favor.
It's a favor. It's more mentoring. He takes our money. Don't get us wrong. This is not charity. He takes our money, but he doesn't need us.
But it fits the ethos very well with really successful people do charitable work or do other things, right? Where there's a lean into it. So you can use this as a strategy, but you can also build incredible relationships with it when you genuinely go to somebody who, like, think of it from this perspective in the beginning. In the beginning, you're asking for a favor. But if the relationship is handled properly, you become peers on a certain level, but it starts as a favor with thank yous and with things that go along with it. And the relationship can build into something completely different, but it starts with that foot in the door. The thing that I love the best about everything you just read, they became great friends and their friendship continued till his death. That is how something very, very small can turn into something measurable and meaningful long-term.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm just going to stay on Jim a little bit longer, this powerful attorney. I consider it one of Frank's great accomplishments in starting Cava companies. This guy was helping Frank when Frank had 0 employees, when Frank was battling lawsuits with people on land deals and bullshit stuff that you deal with when you're starting a business. And I think he's been a big part of your success in the way he's helped you build your policies, your procedures, your structure, the way you finance the organization. Frank convincing this guy that he should waste time on a small business starting up, I found to be just an incredible accomplishment of yours. Not super surprising, but a little surprising because I know how much money he makes with the other big companies, and there is a never-ending amount of work he could take from all of them. And the fact that he spends as much time as he does in your business is one of your big career wins, I think.
So we're going to spend a lot of time on favors throughout this entire episode because it's what we're talking about, right? The ask. But I think the reason why it's meaningful and why it works is this. Deep down, even the most successful people, the most hardened people, the people who are the most difficult to deal with, once didn't have what they have now. Every expert was a beginner once. And if you ask somebody a very simple kind of task that's beneath them, it's almost nostalgic. And what I think people will kind of treat is this. I will give you my ear and I will give you my time. Think about this and just conversations with people that come in and out of your day. The people that you allow to have a second or third conversation or allow to grow into a relationship, it's what they do with that little piece of nostalgia or what they do to capitalize upon your time. If they ask you the same question, you dismiss them. If you thank them and then ask them for another favor or another piece of advice or another piece of guidance, it starts on a road towards something. And that's how relationships are back and forth over time. That's exactly how you get in. And it fits very, very well with the other stuff we'll talk about.
Frankie, do you remember when we had young Zach on as a guest on Let Me Speak to a Manager? It was a couple of years ago. He was thinking about leaving his company. Career change. Well, like a year after that episode, right? He sent me a text, and it was the nicest text about how the advice he got that day led to him thinking differently, and it led to him taking a new job that was much higher, well paid. But a little bit to your point, Zach can call me anytime, and I'm going to spend some time on him because he's not a waste of time. The only people I don't want to give my time to are people that don't take my advice. That's someone who we took some time, we helped him out, he asked some questions, and he's succeeding, and he was smart enough to say thank you and to say that that wasn't in one ear and out the other. You guys took an hour out of your day to, gave me some advice. I applied it all and it worked. Thank you. Like when we heard that, like if he ever asked to like just come down to Richmond to talk to Frank, you'd stop what you were doing and say, I'll help you. Sure. Come on over.
In a minute.
You want to see him win.
So at its core, favors, advice, things like that, at its core, what it really comes down to is you're asking somebody who has something that you don't to figure out a way to impart something upon you. Ben Franklin used it in a way that was really strategic. He used it because this guy was disagreeable, and he used the borrowing of the book to create a common bond and a commonality. Most people don't start off, first of all, in the Pennsylvania State Legislative House. The stakes are lower. So if you start it just from the right perspective of this person has something to gain, this is what's missing so much today in society. And as we get more and more time on our phones and less time face to face, it's those just little gestures of thank you that get you so incredibly far. And I think this was used in a way that was brilliant by Ben Franklin, one of the smartest people in American history. But it literally comes down to just that and relationship building. But this is a way in that you can really pivot into something way bigger. And the downline effects, this guy helping me 10, 15 years ago to today, immeasurable. The examples we're going to use throughout this course of today's episode, same way. Like one little ask turned into something huge through different stories.
Now, Frankie, Ben Franklin's a relatively impressive American, but not our favorite American. Our favorite American for regular listeners of the pod would know that Frank and I would vote for Don Corleone of the Corleone Empire from the greatest bit of cinema in American history, The Godfather. I was just asking Frank before this episode, how many times have you seen it? My guess was 20. Frank said that I was way low on that. I'm probably around the 15 range, but Frank might be up around 40.
I think I'm closer to 100. And this is the film that we would watch every Christmas as a family.
I'm not Italian, so 100 blows me away, but that's pretty good.
We watch this, we watch Goodfellas, and we watch Scarface a lot as a kid.
Yeah. Scarface, that's fantastic. That's a good wholesome family.
We usually started watching Scarface while my grandmother was doing a favor for my grandfather, making him that diet pie.
So the scene I'm about to share is Bonacera, the Undertaker. His daughter has just been beaten up by a bunch of hoodlums, and Bonacera wants justice. And so he is in front of the Godfather asking for him to rough up or kill the boys who hurt his daughter.
I'll give you anything you ask.
We've known each other many years, but this is the first time you ever came to me for counsel, for help. I can't remember the last time that you invited me to your house for a cup of coffee. Even though my wife is godmother to your only child. But let's be frank, you never wanted my friendship. And you were afraid to be in my debt.
I didn't want to get into trouble.
I understand. You found paradise in America. Had a good trade, made a good living. Police protected you, and there were courts of law. And you didn't need a friend like me. But now you come to me and you say, Don Corleone, give me justice. But you don't ask with respect. You don't offer friendship. You don't even think to call me Godfather. Instead, you come into my house on the day my daughter's to be married and you ask me to do murder. Money.
I ask you for justice.
That is not justice. Your daughter is still alive.
Let him suffer then, as she suffers. How much shall I pay you?
His face when they bring money into it, because it's not a favor anymore, is great. He insults him.
My favorite part is the guy he's going to ultimately embalm is rolling his eyes during this scene.
Yes.
Bones, what have I ever done to make you treat me so disrespectfully? If you'd come to me in friendship, then the scum that ruined your daughter would be suffering this very day. And if by chance an honest man like yourself should make enemies, then he would become my enemies. And then they would fear you.
Be my friend. Godfather.
Good. Someday, and that day may never come, I'll call upon you to do a service for me. But until that day, accept this justice as a gift on my daughter's wedding day.
Grazie. Godfather.
Good.
So, a couple of things here. It's obviously very menacing. This is a mafia head, and you're talking about murder and beating the crap out of people. And there is also a very heavy-handed, I might need you to help me, so a tit for tat here. But I do like the fact that as soon as Bonacera, right, the person who needed help, introduced money into it, the Ben Franklin effect goes away, right? Like Frank and I were trying to come up with examples this morning and thinking about it, and a few of them we talked about it and said, no, that's not the Ben Franklin effect. Because if I'm getting paid, right, that's the motivation. The motivation is now money. It is not selfless trying to help. And that's a lot of what Corleone is saying in that scene. You don't you don't want to be my friend unless you need help, right? And let's figure out, if I'm going to do you a favor, are you going to do me one day? Are we truly friends here? And the way Frank and I were just talking about it, the way you can do a favor back to someone in power who helps you for free is to go kick ass, to go make the most of yourself, to go do something. That's how you do me a favor, right? If I coach little kids in sports, the best way you can do me a favor is be good kids at school. Keep playing sports after I'm done coaching you. Work your ass off, right? You're men. That's the best thank you can give me. I'm not looking for anything else other than that.
So in The Godfather, what's really interesting to me about this is this. So the old man demonstrates this, and the entire family kind of credo is built upon favors, not payment, favors, this, that, right? They got the judges, they got the other people. There's the judges are on the payroll, but the people that they do things for and the way the community kind of works is through favors. But if you will go to The Godfather 2, what happens in The Godfather 2 is Michael becomes powerful, and he puts Tom Hagen, he kind of knocks him down a couple of rungs. And Michael went through a lot of hardship. Michael might have been able to get better if he had actually asked him for favors. How do you do this? How do you handle this? How would you do these things? Hey, I want to empower you to do these things. And he would have had another ally instead of someone who was an adversary. So what I take from The Godfather is you see it really usefully used in the beginning. And unfortunately, the Undertaker services are needed. Michael doesn't use it, but what Ian's talking about with coaching and doing good things, it's the same thing. I was in a business meeting earlier today. Through favors or questions or asks or empowerment, what ends up coming is more growth. So it can be used really kind of in a strategic manner. It's clearly used here in the clip, but in business, what it looks like is this. If it's not necessarily exact, you're empowering someone to do, that person does, and they're rewarded with more power. And that's, if you go into management, which Ian teaches very well, that's a lot of the back and forth and what it becomes.
Yeah, this isn't the only movie that gets into Ben Franklin effect. Devil Wears Prada, it's all over it. People asking for little favors and getting a little closer and tighter. But another one of our favorite books and movies is Moneyball. And there's a scene that Frankie and I were talking about. Frankie, go ahead.
So what happens, the movie and the book are slightly different, so I'm going to kind of replay it with a blend. But it goes this way. In Moneyball, Brad Pitt plays Billy Beane. And there's a composite of a bunch of different people that becomes Jonah Hill's character. And the way the movie unfolds is Billy Beane goes to this meeting. And he sees this meeting, and he does this, like a finger, to Jonah Hill. His name's Peter Brand in the movie. He basically drags him outside. And he asks him for a freebie. He doesn't ask him to, like he did. He's not on payroll. He doesn't work for him. He goes like this. What the hell happened in there? And when he asked that question, Jonah Hill like kind of diffuses a little bit. And he's like, he's an underling to someone like a Billy Beane. So he's respectful. And Billy Beane goes, no, tell me what happened. And then Jonah Hill gets a little proprietary and says, I'm not going to tell you what happened because I work for a different team. He goes, tell me what happened. And what they do is he basically unfurls for him what just happened. And what it is they went away from just using straight scouts, and they use math and analytics in baseball. And if you paid attention to baseball over the last 20 years, this revolutionized the game. This is about a story that takes place in 2002. The Red Sox, the Yankees, the two richest teams in baseball, within 2 years of this happening in Oakland, completely stole it. And they have bigger budgets, and they win.
And then the Cubs.
And then the Cubs followed it right after that because they had the same guy the Red Sox have. But what happened in the movie was this. This guy, Peter Brand, Jonah Hill, was many, many, many rungs down. Billy Beane asked him to give me a freebie. And the freebie was he unloads for him 3 or 4 levels deep of the plan. And what ends up happening is Billy Beane hires him on the spot. So he gave him a freebie. This guy got a massive promotion in an instant. And what ended up happening was they revolutionized baseball, kind of taking a massive story and shortening it into 60 seconds.
So when I joined NVR, the company that I was asked to run was the mortgage company, and it was really broken. Had a terrible brand, Just, Frank can tell you, but I'll tell you direct. Customer service was terrible. The people within the business, even though they worked for the same company, NVR, were thought of as inferior, were thought of as less talented. And a lot of that was because it was true. They hired lesser people. They paid less than the home building operation, but they were a critical part of the operation. Like something like 97% of the buyers needed a mortgage. So they were a necessary evil to deal with, but a pain in the ass of the home builder. And they were kind of looked at as a speed bump. That's what, and for the record, when I was being recruited, everyone told me this. Like there was no hiding it. They went out and got a guy from out of the industry because they were so desperate that let's go hire a young kid from GE and let's go get an engineer and see if he can figure this bullshit out.
So let's take a quick pause for a minute, because I was on the operations side before you got there. I had already worked with mortgage people. What year did you start at NBR?
2005.
Okay, in 2005, I had already been there for 7 years, and the mortgage company was a flippin' joke. Everybody that we ever met was literally a joke. And not only was it just a joke, we kind of looked down our noses at these guys. So when Ian came in, he was from the mortgage company. So everybody was just like, well, he's a better dressed, younger schmuck like everybody else who's been here before. And that was all of our perceptions, and not just mine. It was all of my boss's thoughts as well.
Yeah. And I quickly kind of got the sense that people in my position, I was a vice president, I was a region manager, we're used to working, I don't know, kind of at a little bit lower level, like sales managers they would work with, division managers. And there were lots of hierarchies.
They never worked up. They always worked down.
And so the higher level executives, all they knew of the mortgage company is what they were told, right? And who was complaining to them. And all of the power was concentrated in a handful of area presidents at this company. And in my territory, there was a fella by the name of Rayner, who was an old school guy, old German guy with a great mustache, who was a bit of a smartass, but incredibly smart and very well respected, been with the company 30 years. And I got a chance to meet him. And, but I got the sense that he wasn't terribly interested in talking to me a lot. Like, go fix the company. You guys are running a shit show over there. And I had an annual meeting, and I decided to ask him to come talk to my group. It was kind of a risky move at the time. Looking back on it, it's like a no-brainer. Like, of course you do that because we got used to doing it. But at the time, Frankie, it was risky. No one came to mortgage companies and talked. And I kind of had to ask him a few times, like, will you do this? It would mean a lot to me. I'm really trying to change the culture. I need them to hear from you that you want them to be better, that you want to partner. So anyway, he comes to the meeting and he gets to see me talk for like a half hour. I opened the meeting, doing my thing. I was trying to be funny. I was, talking about the market, where we're trying to go. I was trying to be inspirational. And then he got up there and he killed it. Like he made fun of me a little bit, told a few jokes, and then he really got into like where we're going as a company, why we need you, why you're an important part of what we do. I mean, he killed it. We gave him a big round of applause. And now, Frankie, he was like, shit, I'm in this now.
Bought in.
Like he saw the faces of the people that worked there. They looked like the faces of the people in home building. He didn't see us as trolls anymore. And what was really cool, I was telling Frank about this, that led to him inviting me. It was like reciprocal. Like, hey, I'm having a meeting. I thought your little talk was great. Can you come do that in my meeting? I'll give you as much time as you want. Come talk to my group. And I did. And that led to like 10 years of this, of, someone from the builder would talk at my meeting. I would talk at their meeting, and we became good friends and partners. But from that day, Frank, Rayner looked at me different. He saw me as kind of a peer. He kind of treated me like a peer. He didn't treat me like a low-level dipshit running a crappy company. He was like, how do I help you? And there were multiple times where he would go to the CEO and advocate for something that I needed help with for me on my behalf that I couldn't get done for whatever reason. He would go advocate for me. There were things he paid for me that we did. Like I did a contest once, and he gave me money to give gifts and prizes out to my team because I couldn't get Inman to pay for something. He gave, like, I had everything I wanted after I asked him for that favor to come talk at the meeting, which was a huge favor, but it totally changed the way he thought of us.
Do you remember when the Beatles came to America? You remember what they called it?
I wasn't alive. You'll have to tell me what. I know you're a lot older than me. You just turned 50. What was that like? Was that crazy? Were you into Beatlemania? Did you have Beatle underwear? Were you into this shit?
So Beatlemania, or they called it the British invasion, right? So it was this cultural phenomenon where everybody kind of flocked to it, and it changed the world. If I was going to ask you in the 21st century, what's the closest thing to Beatlemania? What would you say it is?
I would say Michael Jackson or Taylor Swift.
I'm going Taylor Swift. And the way I'm going Taylor Swift is I think Taylor Swift has benefited greatly by the Ben Franklin effect. And it's this. She is one of the, it's a phenomenon that's changing. Like, there was $1 billion made by her alone on this tour she just did. Like, it revolutionized everything. And one of the reasons I think she is so sticky with her fan base is because she understands social media today, and she's an incredible influencer. And she's constantly asking her fans to lean into things, to like, to subscribe, to listen for things. Like, I need you to pay attention. That's a favor. Pay attention to this show because I'm going to leave you an Easter egg. Carla in our office, I'll go in her office during the tour, and she's literally streaming it from around the world, listening, because Taylor Swift wants you to find something and create like a little egg hunt on your own. It's brilliant. Everyone's bought into it because they think they can crack the code faster. I'm asking you for your time. I'm going to reward you with something tactile or real. And because of it, you're going to become a Swiftie. And it's the reason, it's literally this simple, dusty old trick with this book that's turned into just a mega business in the 21st century, because these things work with the human condition. No matter the app, if it's a book, if it's an Instagram, it all works because I'm asking you to do a little something for me. It worked for Ian. He had to overcome something. He had to overcome skepticism. But once he overcame that skepticism and proved that he had the goods, this guy backed him because Ian had the ability to convince him to do that favor. And these things snowball.
And so we'll get into different ways that you can do this, but if you've got a detractor, ask for their advice. Or if you've got, you can ask a detractor, hey, could you review this draft? Hey, could you look at this? Sometime I'm putting together, man, I feel like I'm missing something, and you're always good at this kind of stuff, right? And don't be disingenuous. Ask them for something where me asking Rainer, trust me, Frankie, that was a big move for me to get him there. It made everyone feel really important. He was the highlight of our meeting. So I wasn't being disingenuous when I said it would mean a lot to everyone if you came. It did mean a lot to everyone. So don't ask someone, right, who's let's say good operationally for some sales feedback, right, and tell them they're great at it. Don't bullshit. Ask for something that they have value. And the big thing is be appreciative and let them know what you did with it. I think this is where most people screw up the Ben Franklin effect. And Franklin says it in that autobiography, that little piece that I read, Frankie. He sent a thank you letter explaining what he got out of the book and how much it meant to him. Like, that is such a big component. People always take free advice, they take free mentoring, and they don't follow up and tell the people how much they appreciate them.
One of the big things that we deal with here, so I've dealt with this a couple of different ways. And as we've been thinking about this, some things have triggered in my brain. Dealing with politicians is really, really difficult. So what we'll do in a lot of instances is we'll ask them a favor. Will you give me an hour of your time? We'll pick you up. We'll come show you. We'll come grab it. We'll make it convenient. But I need you to say yes. And I'm asking you to give me. But what I always do in those meetings is I show them whatever we're talking about. And I've done this with mayors. I've done this with elected officials from like council people. I've done it with staff, but we've done this bunches of time. So we do affordable housing. We do different projects. So we have a meeting and we say, look, if you'll give me some of your time, I'll show this to you. And then we go and show it to them. And then immediately after that meeting, something came up in the meeting. They might mention something they wanted to read. They might mention something that was important to them. They might mention something that is physical, but they might mention something that is completely just thought driven. But
sometimes it's sexual.
Maybe with Ian, not with me. I've never had those offers. Nobody's ever confused
I mean,
me for,
take a look at Frankie's face. Look at that face.
for
You don't grow an empire the size of Cava companies without doing some favors, if you know what I'm talking about.
Nobody puts the ass in asphalt. So to that end, what we usually do is this. I usually write a handwritten card and we use our courier. Our courier delivers it that day. So it's usually on their desk that day because that's memorable. It's handwritten and it's timely. And this has had incredible benefits for us over time because they just see that we're listening, we're valuing them. It's similar to Rainer. He came to the event. It ends if Ian sucks on stage. Ian doesn't. He's engaging. He's doing something exciting. Rainer sees it. Rainer probably said to himself, shit, I wish people on our staff would be this creative at a meeting. So that's why they brought Ian for this, like, the dog and pony show. Ian replaced the Harlem Globetrotters at our meeting because, like, he was more exciting than anybody else. Hard as it is to believe, but it was true. He was the lightning rod that we all needed in our meetings, but they saw that. So that's how you repay the favor quickly, and relationships can build off of that.
Outside of your company too, if you're in sales or if you're a business owner or, you're trying to build a tighter bond with clients, a thing that I like to do is I like to ask for a testimonial or a referral. So
100%.
I've been doing a lot of this lately. I just finished up a bunch of programs and I don't hound people. I don't send them a lot. I'll just say, hey, and I usually do it after they say I really got a lot out of your program. I'll say, I've got a link. Is there any chance I could get you to write and say that in a testimonial for me? And I almost never get people to say no. They're always willing to help. They want to help. And I find that they're always eager to like email me and be like, how'd I do? Is that what you were looking for? Did I do I was so nervous. I chose the video option. I figured that might help you. But I always find that that's kind of a cool way. That's a little Ben Franklin effect of asking for a favor, and it just tightens our bond a little bit. Now, again, these are clients. Like if they ever reached out to me and asked for help, I would help them out and not be sending them a bill right away. I'm not invoicing you. I would do favors for them in return, but those little favors back and forth, right? Like that's Godfather effect, that's Ben Franklin effect.
It causes buy-in. So I'm going to
You do it with realtors, don't you? Don't you?
Yeah, I'm going to go through that. Let me ask you a question, Ian. How many times in your life do you think you've given a Google review?
Boy, maybe like 6 or 7. It was always when someone asked me.
For me, it's one of two things. It's either a 1 or a 5. I'm nowhere in between. Someone has done dog shit service, and I think we need to know about it, right? Yeah. Or someone's incredible. And if it's crap, if it's a 1-star review, I never go back. But if it's a 5, that's the kind of stuff I recommend or I tell people about. Like, hey, if you're here, go there. Like you'll see, like I don't tell people you're going to see my Google review, but I'm 50 years old. If I'm going to get on my phone and hit a Google review, like there was something there. I'm bought in. I'm bought into your success.
You kicked ass. Yeah.
Buying into someone's success also works this way. So realtors were hard for me to break into when I first started. There was a guy in Charlottesville who was really, really, really tough to deal with. And it just kind of happened organically. But I said, hey, will you come look at something with me? I asked him first time. There was no guarantee of payment. He looked at it and together we actually formed a mutual bond. Because I asked him first time, he gave it to me and he realized it was worth it. But I made a mistake shortly after that meeting with the realtor. I picked the house color and I just painted it and she didn't like it. And I found out after the fact, she's like, yeah, someone didn't like that house color. I think it was like a yellow, right? Or yellow or a tan or something like that. And I was like, well, what did you say when the customer said? She goes, I didn't like it either. And it dawned on me. Now what I do with realtors is I ask them to give me a favor. Will you give me time for free? Will you review my selection sheet up front? Make sure my paint colors and my design selections, you like them. And if you like them, then there's no payment here. But if you like those things, they become your selections. And if they become your selections, if anybody ever attacks it, you defend it. Now, if they don't like something, we change it or we get to a mutually agreed upon spot. I can't do this, but I could do this. Do you like that better? Is this acceptable? But you're empowering them. And then it becomes their decision, not your decision. And that has had huge effects.
I did a keynote for a home builder in Virginia a year ago. And there was a loan officer there. There were salespeople and there were loan officers, a big home builder. And the loan officer reached out and asked if he could have lunch with me after the fact. And I almost always blow these things off, but this kid was he was energetic and he was hard to say no to. He was just a young kid. But he was telling me about how he got his first client, and he got it through a realtor. And the way he would get realtors to meet with him, he wouldn't say, a lot of people reach out and say, hey, I just want to see if you have any clients that you're having trouble getting mortgages for that maybe I could take another look at, right? It's kind of selfish, like commission, commission, commission. He didn't do any of that. He said, hey, I'm a young guy starting off in the business, and I would love to get some advice from another full commission person who's made it. That was kind of his approach. I know you're not going to give me any of your clients. I know you're too big and too busy for me. And he would just go and take notes. And he did this with me. He sat there and just took notes like feverishly as I talked. And he was more curious, not about my time working for a builder, but as working for a small business, starting, how'd you get your clients? How do you get referrals? How do you do this? But he would do that with realtors. And by the end of it, they would like him so much, they'd be like, I got a client that might like you. And they would end up giving him a deal, or because they helped him, they now wanted him to be successful and to grow. And it's very similar to what you do with realtors, where you ask them for advice. You're pumping their ego, but you're also asking for their expertise, their advice. And now they're bought in. Now they're bought into what Cava Companies is doing because you respected me enough. You respected me enough to ask my opinion. And people don't do that a lot because I'm a realtor and people don't respect my opinion. They just think I'm here to make my 3% and be done. 1.5 if you're in Indiana.
One of the things that we talk about a lot at the company is this, and I think this is probably a good way to close. I think what happens nowadays is there's AI, right? Like Ian and I use AI in our daily lives. There's phones. There's all of these other things that take the human experience and they make us detract from each other. When I was a kid, you could talk to people in the gym. You go to a gym now, everyone's got headphones on. How do you start a conversation with anybody? It's impossible. So what I think is really, really critical is how do we enhance the human experience? And the way to do that is to have these little trades that you can build and you can separate yourself with. So the client that Ian was talking about a minute ago, we're probably not right for his business, but we're rooting for you. The bar has gotten so much lower of what we expect from others because of all the tech and all the barriers we have up. So if you can figure out a way to break that barrier, your reward is way faster than it was in Ben Franklin's era because of the fact there's so many more distractions and so many things that isolate us. So just simply having a little kind of wrote in, a thank you card, something that distinguishes you. I interviewed some kids last week. I got 2 thank you cards. I was going to hire both of those kids anyways, but they have the right ethos. Both of them came in with cards. They separate themselves because I had dozens and dozens of people come and go. You never hear from them. This person actually took the time. And so what I'm saying is these little things matter, but they matter more today with where we are because of just how distracted everybody is.
I'll say this also works as a manager, even though the power dynamic is different. You're in charge, right? You're the one that pays them and makes decisions on their employment. Asking people for a favor that's outside of their regular job, like, hey, could you come look at this? I'm struggling with this, or I'm thinking of rolling this out next week in the meeting. I want to talk to you first because I think the group respects you. I'm going to run this by you and I want you to give me honest feedback. Those are favors, right? You're asking them for some help. You're asking for their expertise. And even though you're the boss, it's Ben Franklin effect because it makes people feel little ownership. It makes them feel respected. It makes them feel like, wow, I helped my manager. So now I'm rooting for my manager to be successful and to get things done. And, the big thing is with the Franklin effect, you got to be genuine. Ask people for something they are truly an expert in and ask them for something that would actually help you. Don't ask people for advice on something where you don't care about their advice. Like, it's got to be genuine. And you got to be willing to do it too, right? But Don Corleone, someday I may ask you of a favor. It's got to be that way or it's going to feel manipulative. You can just start small, right? So for me, it wasn't Rainer. I didn't ask a lot. Can you just come to my meeting and talk to him for a little bit? I'll put you on for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30, whatever you want. Don't spend a lot of time preparing. Just come talk to them and tell them. So I kept it really small and then be really thankful. And I love what Frank just said, handwritten notes. God, they are not antiquated. They are not antiques. You should do that. After Rayner came to my meeting, the next morning before he got in the office, I got there and there was a handwritten note. I put it on his desk and a bottle of Camus. Like, thank you. You mean the world to me, right? I heard you like this wine. Here you go, right? Before I drank Camus like it was the house wine. So, if you do those things, people are going to do it. And I would just say, try it out. If you got someone where you've got some friction or a client you've been trying to get into, or, someone who's blocking something for you, ask for advice, make it small and just try it. And you'll see that the relationship will start to change, the dynamic, just like me filling in today and doing the agenda that Frank was supposed to do. I know this is going to make my bond with Frankie much tighter, and he's going to do all kinds of things for this podcast in the future to make my life easier. I just know it.
I keep waiting.
So do I, brother. So do I. Well, listen, Frankie, I think we have run out of our agenda items. I think we've covered this fulsome. So it was good to see you, brother.
It was awesome to see you, and I'm going to close at something that's just slightly off, but it's relevant. I don't know how to shut my phone off, so my phone comes through my watch, and while we've been in here, I've had 3 people reach out to me who are all asking or following up on something that we did. They came to me and asked my opinion, they followed up on it, and they're going to bat on it. So that's the type of stuff that inside of your career, if you ask for help, but then you follow up on it, like one's a management piece, 2 are decisions on construction, that's really cool stuff. And as a manager, I'm like, we're getting better. We're moving forward. So it's little things inside of your career that if you do kind of do a skip over with a boss, make sure you have their permission. But if you go to like the owner of the company like me or a regional manager like Ian did, and then you follow up with like, hey, we did this and here's what the result is, those things have incredible dividends long term. Not so much with an agenda with Ian, but at the same time in your career, if you're not working with me.
Frankie, someday I may come to you for a favor, and that day may never come. Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, you nut-cutting son of a bitch. Go Gators.
See ya. If you like what you just heard, and judging by the viewership numbers, you did, hit that follow button and leave us a 5-star review. It helps other people find the show. And it lets Frankie and I know that, a few people are listening to this.